watching In Deep on the Delta. My name is Steve Cooper. Today I'm with my friend and local guide, Joey Price. Joey, thanks for coming on the show with me.
Yeah.
Joey is a full-time bass fishing guide and a tournament angler. What we're going to be talking about today is what to look for when you're buying a new fishing rod. So Joey, let's start off with breaking down the blank.
Yeah.
And I want you to talk about, you know, from tip to butt section, what each section of the rod does when you're looking at a fast action rod, a moderate action rod, what the tip should be, what the midsection of the rod could be, and then maybe when the butt section comes into play. We're going to talk about when you're choosing a rod as a weekend angler and you're looking for a multi-purpose rod. And we'll get into choosing specific rods for specific purposes. So with that, Joey, let's talk about the rod blank itself.
If you want to grab one of those rods for me, I can go over what the components look like.
All right, we'll start off with a moderate or slow action rod.
Yeah, let's do the chatterbait rod. That's a good one.
All right.
So if you want to just do a simple breakdown of a rod, you can just break it down to 3 parts. I love making things very simple because there's always a lot going on when you're fishing all the time, right? So this, I would say, is just the tip of your rod, you know, depending on the action. Sometimes this is the tip of your rod and sometimes this is the tip of your rod, but 6 to 7 guides down is the tip, right? If you want to bring that a little more towards me. And then after that, you have the midsection, right? You get into medium, medium, heavy, moderate, fast action, extra fast, crankbait. Like, this is where a lot of that action comes from. It's not here, and it's not all the way here, which I would call I call this the meat of the rod.
The butt section.
The butt section, yeah. You know, that this is where a lot of the backbone's going to come from. You know, you can make it complicated or you can make it easy. So for me, I just go tip, midsection, butt section.
And show them that tip, what you're talking about,
Yeah.
how the bend of that tip is for a
pull
slow
it up for
action
me.
rod.
So-
Pull it up. Okay.
See how I can take the tip, and I don't recommend doing this often if you can help it, but I can take it and I can turn it, right? That's a slow tip, right? As it stops bending right here, right? So this is my tip, and the rest of it is meat. So
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And let's show them a faster rod, which I have right here.
Yeah, so I mean, this one stops bending there, right? So that's fast, right? You're not able to really turn the rod. This is a jig rod, right? So it's a heavy, fast bonk. Same thing, right? You're not.
And I really feel the power in that tip.
So as Steve's back there, you can't see him. He's holding the rod like he's shaking a little bit because all the force is going into the rod just from me pulling on the tip.
And
right?
show them that midsection too.
Yeah.
And I want you to pull down on that. And man, I can tell you when you're doing that, Joey, you know, compared to that other rod, I've got to hold on to this rod with 2 hands.
So this kind of blank, a fast blank, right? The whole thing is just is really designed to drive a big single hook.
Right. You mentioned something that you should do when you're looking for a rod, and that's the hat trick. And tell them about the hat trick.
So, I mean, I've seen some guys bring like a piece of carpet with them, you know, that's over the top. But bring a hat. If you really like your hat, bring a hat you don't like. Right, and could you just grab a rod?
Absolutely.
I might be able to get this on camera, right? There's lots of ways to test out a rod. For me, this is the best way I have found to test out a rod. Some guys wobble it, so you can just shake it, and they just look at the tip, right? And all it's going to show you is how wobbly this tip is. It's not going to show you what the midsection is going to do. If you want to move this forward a little bit, it's not going to show you what the midsection is going to do, and it's not going to show you what the whole blank's going to do. So what I usually do, if I'm in a tackle shop, to be respectful, because you don't want to just slam these rod tips on their floors, you know, that you haven't bought them yet, is you take the rod, right, you turn it upside down so that the guides are where, because you're going to, when you catch fish, it's going to bend this way. When you put your line on it and you test it, it's going to bend this way, right? You put your hat on the ground, you put the tip in, and you push down to where you can see the whole blank, you know, if you want to move this up a little bit, to where you can see that whole blank has bent, right? And it's going to give you an idea of what this rod does, right? Instead of just wobbling the tip or taking your hand and pulling on it, because if you take your hand and pull on it, you're liable to just break it, right? That's a really good way to be respectful to the tackle shop owner. You know, You're taking care of the rod, the tip, putting your hat on the ground, putting the tip on it, and flexing the whole blank.
Did Rob tell you to say that?
No, he didn't. I've just broken a rod before using my hand.
Okay. So try the old hat trick when you go in there. And also, if you're really interested in that rod, I would bring your reel in, whatever reel you think you're going to be using on that rod, to make sure it balances out. And I want to talk a little bit about the components of the rod and what you should be looking for when you buy a rod, or at least things to consider. Number one, we talked about the blank and the action of the blank. Joey just explained that. I'll start off by saying, when you are out looking for an upper end rod, an expensive rod, you're going to find that these rods are lighter, they're more sensitive, but they're not always strong. The high modulus graphite, boron, maybe carbon fiber, that's what they're using in the high end blanks. It's light. These are very strong materials, but they want to keep these rods so light that they cut down the wall thickness of the blank. And that's why, like that second blank that we had, I know that was an I-rod, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the Fred's Magic Stick.
Yeah, that thing, it felt solid, and I would have been comfortable putting more pressure on that, even though we had a pretty good bend on it. I'll just bring up another brand, let's say Megabass. I love Megabass rods, but they are prone to breakage. If I had a Megabass rod in that situation we just had, I would be very leery of putting that extra oomph on it, because I've had so many just bust off. And that's because they're meant to do specific things, and they do them very well, but you're going to be probably breaking a few of them. And I'm not picking on Megabass, and I'm not trying to tout I-Rod. I'm just saying that I-Rod that is in that, what is that, $150, $200 range? Yeah. Sometimes those rods are much more durable. The other things that you want to look at on the rod, other than the rod, the blank itself, is the guides. If you get cheap light components in your guides, they tend to rust at the foot. They tend to smash.
Yeah, I've got a couple really cheap rods that, like, I'll go through 3 or 4 guides are cracked in 3 weeks of fishing, you know? And then you can see that the epoxy's cracking on the outside. It just happens fast.
And the rings will fall out.
Yeah.
Generally on the higher end rods, you're going to get a really good guide that's going to last for you. It's going to stay smooth especially if you're using braid. The cheaper, if you're not using alkalite or a higher hardness of ring in that thing, they tend to cut into the rings, and then you have all kind of problems. Don't be fooled by having a great looking wrap.
Yeah.
Most all of these blanks are not hand wrapped. They're wrapped by a machine, and the blanks the wraps on the right rod guides are going to all look great, and that should never be a problem on any rod, even the cheaper rods. And the last component on that would probably be the reel seat. When you buy a cheaper reel seat, the reel seat a lot of times is made out of a softer plastic. They tend not to hold the reels in position all the time. They don't last as long. Generally, the better rods have a carbon fiber or some type of reel seat that it's on there. The threads are going to last. So those are just a few of the things that you want to be looking at when you're buying a rod. When you buy any rod, it's not cheap to replace it. I don't know of one manufacturer that just says, hey, you broke the rod, here's the rod. Even when I bought super high-end rods, by the time you ship them back and pay a nominal fee, you're talking on a high-end rod, it could be up to a couple $100 to have it replaced. So you want to do your homework before you buy the rods, so you just don't have to send these things back. Every rod that I've bought has all been perfect, and I'm thinking you're going to say the same thing?
No, absolutely.
All of us have bought rods that we thought were going to be our number one rod, and they're sitting in our garage.
Yeah, I think this is like when I started fishing, which actually wasn't that long ago, 2015.
You got to be kidding me.
2016.
You've gotten this good in 10 years?
When you get to fish 250 days, you get good pretty fast. I got some really good guys behind my back, helping.
Yeah, but you know what? I started off being in a pretty good mood. Now I'm a little bit pissed off. I didn't know you've only
Well, I mean, I was fishing like ponds and stuff like in 2013, and I just got a boat in 15 or 16.
Okay.
That's when I
Well,
figured out what
you're
the
ahead
Delta
of the
was.
game. But I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No,
Let's
you're
talk. Let's get back on track.
So
here.
like, yeah, that was probably like I would just be trying to purchase things and trying to learn, and like, you know, when you're starting, you don't have a lot of information to go off. You don't have a whole lot of like experience, so you're just kind of listening to these other people that are like, this is good, this is good, this is good, this is good. And back then is like when kind of YouTubers were starting to make a living with fishing. That, you know, it wasn't that long ago, but that was a while ago,
Yeah.
right? And now there's just so much information,
Right.
you know. Keep it simple. Make it easy for yourself, right? That's all I have to say. Like, if you don't fish all the time, you are a weekend angler, like, just start with something basic. Start with something you like, right? If you want a long rod, buy a long rod. If you want a short rod, buy a short rod, right? Start with a medium heavy. Don't buy something that's like super specific and then just go out and try it. But you are going to run into that situation where you buy something and it's not what you want it to, you know, it says medium heavy, or it says heavy, or it says punching, and you're just like,
Yeah.
I absolutely cannot do this for what I want it. So find your way of doing it, and then buy your rods based off of the way you like to do it.
All right, so we have gone into the shop, we've done our homework, we've done the hat test, we see the rod is the right price, it looks great, we want the rod, we buy it, we take it home, put it on the boat, and it's not working out for us. Maybe it hurts our hand, maybe it's too soft, it's too stiff, it's just not working out for it. It goes in the garage, and basically we got maybe a $200 or $300 rod in there that's sitting in the garage, or we sell it for pennies on the dollar. You don't have to do that. There's a lot of things that you can adjust, and we're going to go over those things now. And I think the easiest thing is just changing out the line. I'll give you a specific scenario, Joey. I fish the Delta a lot, and I use braid 90% of the time and a short leader. If that rod is too stiff, what do you do as far as changing out the lines?
Yeah, so I think that's pretty common. Like, a lot of guys on the Delta, they do like to use braid on everything and then put a leader, or just straight braid stuff. Braid very adversely changes the actions
No stretch.
of every single rod.
Yeah.
What you can try is, and this is like a big groaner for a lot of people, they don't like it. I think they see the price tag of it and they go, oh, it's junk, right? Monofilament. It's cheaper than fluorocarbon, and it's way cheaper than braid, right? For a long time, I was like, oh, monofilament's junk, right? It's cheap, it's not good, it stretches a whole bunch. Well, if your rod is really, really heavy,
Stiff.
yeah. If it's stiffer than you expected it to be, you can change that with a line that stretches a lot.
Pull off your fluorocarbon, put on mono that has stretch.
Yeah,
So it's
right?
basically taking out that jolt.
Yeah, and there's a couple different options. You know, you have like a copolymer, and then you have like, which is kind of a mix of both. Monofilament's going to stretch more than copoly. It's another one of those things where it depends on what kind of brand you buy. I like Big Game. You know, that's not new. I think a lot of guys love Big Game. You know, it has a really big line diameter, so you're compared to other monofilaments even. But it's cheap. If you buy the wrong one, you're down $7, $8.
It's strong.
And it's very, 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 very strong.
I talked about pairing your line or your rod with the right reel, and I almost think that if you're buying high-end rods, you should really think about the reel that you put on that. Maybe pair it up with high-end reel, because the higher-end reels, just like the higher-end rods, a lot of what you're paying for is the weight of them, along with the steel ball or stainless ball bearings or whatever you have. But it's the weight, and you don't want to unbalance these rods, because you may have a nice light rod that's wonderful to hold, and you take this old clunker reel, and it just throws the balance out.
Yeah.
Especially if you're bass fishing where it's repeated thousands and thousands of casts, the higher end reels are going to last you a little bit longer.
They will, for sure.
The last but not least, let's talk about comfort. Why don't you talk about the Trigger Happy Comfort Grips, and I'll talk about the Wind Rod Wrap. And I think if you have that rod that is not comfortable for you, it's not unbalanced. You want me to
go get them?
Sure, yeah, go over there, and if you're just a minute, I'll give the lead in here.
Okay.
While Joey's out looking for his Trigger Happy Comfort Grip rod, I'll talk about Wind. It's Wind, W-I-N-N, rod wrap. And what I have found, my hands are average size. If you have a big hand, you'll find that a lot of these, especially the high-end rods, they have a very, a grip that's very narrow.
Yeah.
And with a narrow grip, it'd be like trying to grab a pencil and working with that. It's not comfortable in your hand. Now, obviously, we're talking about grips that are larger than a pencil, but they're maybe the size of a cigar or something. So you can build up that area right where your hand sits, with the reel, and you could take a few wraps in front of the rod and reel. I wish I had mine. I should have brought them. But you can wrap them up, and it adds a larger dimension or circumference to the rod itself. So when you grab it, it's much easier to hold, and it also gives you a little bit of cushion. So that also will help with the comfort of that rod. And if you're using a jerk bait or a crank bait or something like that, where you're twitching it or popping it, it also helps not only to cushion your hand, but it takes a lot of the stress or the shock out of the rod when you're twitching all day. And now the only thing is we got that trigger that's cutting into our fingers. Show them what you got there as far as the trigger
so
happy.
These are our trigger guards. I was lucky enough when I first started fishing tournaments when I was a lot younger. I actually met Lauren Jenkins, and he was like, try these out. And I didn't need them yet, but as I fished more and more and more and more and more, and I primarily, back then the whole delta was just covered in hyacinth and primrose. The best thing to do is punch, or even frogging, or throwing a topwater, like where you're just walking it all day long. Like it gets exhausting, especially the way I hold my reels. Right, I'm always here. Right, my right ring finger, my pinky are always sitting right there.
Yeah,
so
we talked
all
about
day
it
long.
cutting into your hand.
Or right here, and like some of these. Like, ow, that's pretty hard. So, and they're easy to put on, right? You just kind of grab the butt, put it over the butt, and then you're on. You've got it. And if it sticks out a little bit, because all the little triggers are a different shape, you can just take a little pair of scissors and you can just cut this piece right here.
So thanks, Joey. And the other thing, Lauren's a nice guy.
Yeah, he is.
Really nice guy. He's a local guy, and if you're out to one of the shows or something, Lauren's usually around. You can talk to him. He'll show you what he's got. And what we've covered an awful lot today. We've put in probably 5 hours of information into maybe a 30-minute, 20-minute video, whatever this ends up to. But there's a lot to think about. But I think if you're consciously aware of everything we've talked about, next time you go and you look at a rod, you got some other things to think about. And then for those of you who may have a rod or two that's in your garage, go out there, get them, maybe change the reel out, change the line on them, change the rod grip, get a Trigger Happy Comfort Grip on it or whatever. It may be one of those rods that you can take out of your garage, put on your boat, and you're going to really like it. Maybe not for a jerkbait rod or a crankbait rod. Maybe it's a great topwater rod, whatever it is. I think you can probably get a few of those rods out of your garage and put them back on your boat. So Joey, thanks for all your advice and the expertise. And there's a lot of things like this that I think you and I can talk about, and I'll try. We'll discuss those on our next fishing trip, and maybe we'll find something that generally doesn't get talked about a whole lot that we can sit down and shed some light on for some of the beginners, so that they don't make the same mistakes that we have. So hey, thanks a lot. Oh, and by the way, Joey, somebody wants to come out and fish with Priceless Fishing. I did mention you are a full-time guide, guiding here on the California Delta. Why don't you give them your number and let them know how they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can get a hold of me with my number, 925-872-9726, or my website. It's easy. It's pricelessfishing.com. Those are the two major ways. They're easy. Call me or text me anytime.
Yeah, and if you can't get a hold of Joey, you can hit me up at In Deep on the Delta, and I can get in contact with Joey and make sure you guys get together. So with that, I think it looks like, geez, the fishing's getting good out here. We're gonna have to go out and do a little fishing.
I got to go practice somewhere.
All right,
This looks good.
All right, we'll see you guys. Good luck.